Hey friend, what's up? So I am just randomly recording this. It's kind of going to be a rant because I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. We have to talk about this. There are some serious garbage pieces of advice that are given to nonprofit leaders and people who run nonprofits. And I'm telling you that I can't take it anymore. And so I have to talk about this. And there's a lot of really bad advice that people get that I'm just like, "Oh no. This one we got to talk about it." And it is the old adage that has actually been it comes in many different forms, but it's basically, if you want money, ask for advice. If you've ever done that, if you've ever been told that, if you've ever thought that, if you've tried it and it's worked, let's talk about it. So I looked it up, and according to AI, the actual quote is, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. Suggesting that somehow we need to trick or manipulate people, frankly, that we can't just go to people and be straight up and say, hey, you know what? The thing we really need is financial support, that we actually need to ask them for advice first, and that this is a relationship building tactic, that this is actually moving from transactional, from we're not going to just talk about money. We're going to ask you what you think. So let's come up with stuff that we might need advice on so that we can build a relationship with you. Now, I get that this may be well intended, but what ends up happening is I hear from executive directors and nonprofit CEOs and development directors, major gifts officers all the time about how they do not ask for money because they're following this advice that you should ask for advice and not money so that you can get money. Do we not see how effed this is? That's literally what manipulation is. It's having a hidden agenda. I cannot stand this garbage. I can't stand it. Do you honestly think that adults cannot handle you asking them for money? No, it's actually you who can't handle hearing no. Perhaps your ego is so fragile that you cannot handle hearing no, and it's disguised by the fact that you're trying to be wise and relational by having a literal bait and switch. When I go into a meeting with a hidden agenda, that is exactly what people are trying to avoid, right? I, I'm like, how do we not see that having a hidden agenda is not good for relationship building? How do we not see that actually having things that we're hoping someone does, but we're not going to communicate it, is dysfunctional? This doesn't build relationships. It doesn't build trust. You know what builds trust? Honesty. I cannot stand lying. I can't stand it. For me personally, there is nothing that is more egregious. I can't stand it. I can't be close to liars. Personally, in my personal life, if people lie, if they pretend and try to gaslight, I have zero tolerance for it. And if anything comes close to trying to twist the truth a little bit in order to get what you want, that is literal manipulation. And there is nothing that pisses me off more. I cannot stand that. For your own hidden agenda. If that's something that you want to follow, I don't want to help you raise money at all. I realize like I'm coming in really hot with this, but it's something that I have a visceral reaction to, obviously. I can't stand that. You know what builds trust with people? is doing what you say you're going to do. Your actions match your words. You actually deliver on promises. You are a dependable human being. You are honest. You are of integrity. You have character, good character. This is what builds trust. It's difficult to be an honest person. It's costly. A lot of people prefer people to lie to them to make them feel better about their excuses. But I don't operate that way. And I don't operate that way with my donors. And I've found that I sleep better at night when I'm straight up with people. I do not pretend to be friends with someone hoping they will secretly give my nonprofit money the whole time that I'm hanging out with them. It's literally repulsive to me. And these are the people who won't ask for money straight up because they're worried about being all about money. No, what you're worried about is how people perceive you, because you actually are all about money. If you're meeting with rich people and you're their friend and you have a hidden agenda the whole time you're at lunch, that you're hoping maybe if you talk about your nonprofit enough, that they'll just give their money. You're not friends. You're not a good friend. And I might listen to this podcast episode and I might think, wow, I came on too strong. This was too harsh. I don't even agree with what I said. I'm really going to stick by my thinking here, at least for right now. And I reserve the right to change my mind. I might change my mind later. I will not change my mind on being an honest person. And to me, ask for advice so that you can get money reeks of manipulation. It's not honest. You don't actually want advice. You want money. If you had to choose between advice or money, what would you choose? There's your answer. That's what you actually want. And then on top of that, I'm all for asking people for advice. I get feedback from donors all the time. That's what you should actually be doing. There's a distinction. So let me explain that. You should be asking donors for feedback, for their advice on being a donor. For example, hey, you've been a donor for 3 years. What has your experience been like? How do you think we could improve your experience as a donor? They are an expert on their experience as a donor. That advice could be applied to the experience of lots of donors, aggregated with other feedback that you get from other donors who you actually trust. Same thing with a board member. Hey, what's your experience been like being on the board for the last 2 years? How can we improve your experience as a board member? Where do you see we could improve? And then posing the question to them, where do you think you could improve as a board member? These are healthy questions. You could say that's a form of advice. You're asking them for feedback on how to improve the board member or the donor experience. That's a worthy conversation to have, and it strengthens the relationship, especially and perhaps only because you do something with the feedback. You implement it. So my rule for asking people for advice is, number one, if they have never achieved the thing that I'm hoping to achieve, or they have no business giving the type of advice that they're giving, I shouldn't be asking them for it. For example, if you ask someone for advice on how to run your nonprofit and they've never run a nonprofit, what are you doing? It's not wise. And the way that you actually build trust with people when you ask them for advice is by implementing their advice and then reporting back to them that you implemented their advice and what happened. That's called a relationship. This is true if, like, in any interpersonal relationship, if you have a family member and they're really handy and the pipes just burst in your bathroom and you get on FaceTime with them and they walk you through how to fix the pipes because you don't want to pay a plumber, then you are going to text them later when it's working and be like, hey man, thanks so much for helping me with the pipes. Everything's working now. I did what you said. It's the same thing with asking for advice from donors, board members, volunteers, whoever it is. You want to report back that you implemented something that they said. Otherwise, you're just paying them lip service. You're asking them for advice just to stroke their ego, and you have no intention of implementing their advice. And you're only doing it so that you can raise money. That somehow you meeting with them and asking for advice is them going to get the message that you need money. And of course, sometimes this actually works. That's the dilemma. That you ask people for advice and they will give you money, but that's not a strategy you can rely on. Some people are relying on that strategy to raise money, and it is driving me up a wall. No more. Stop asking people for advice who've never raised money. Stop asking board members for advice on things they have no business giving you advice on. Stop asking people for advice who have been really crappy board members. Stop asking people for advice who have no experience doing what you're doing. And if they do have experience, their experience is crappy. Why are we asking people for advice who've never raised money? What are we doing here? You raise money faster and for longer when you are direct, when you get to the point, when you are honest and you are trustworthy. Playing these games does not help you raise more money long term, sustainably. It does not build relationships. You're wrong. And I am so sick of this. Please stop doing it. If you want to ask people for advice, ask the right people. Get wisdom. You lack wisdom. You need wisdom. You need discernment. You need to be able to play something out, cause and effect. If I ask this person, what's going to happen? If they give me advice, what's the point of the advice? Am I going to do something with it? Am I not? Have you considered that if you don't implement someone's advice, that you actually erode the relationship? Because then you're going to meet with them again, 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, and you're going to ask them for more advice? Why would they give you more advice? You didn't implement what they told you last time. Eventually, they're not going to meet with you anymore. Eventually, they're not going to help you because you don't actually want their advice. You want their money. They're going to be confused. Why does this person keep asking me for advice and they're not taking it? I don't get it. Because people with money, people who are successful in business, they don't waste their time. They're straight up. If they want to make a deal, they negotiate, they get a deal. They find a win-win scenario, something that wins for them and something that wins for the other party. That's the vast majority of successful people. That's my opinion, right? That's my worldview. You might think that most successful people are greedy bastards who only get there by cheating everyone. I don't see the world that way. I have had way too much evidence showing that most people are generous, most people are trustworthy, most people at their core love others and want to make a positive difference in the world. I have way too much proof that that is the case, that there are plenty of successful, generous people in the world, and they got there because they didn't waste time. This tactic of ask for advice so you can get money wastes a lot of time. Think of it like you are putting speed bumps. You're in a car, you're trying to get somewhere, and asking for advice is just speed bumps in the road. You are literally slowing down getting to your destination. It's the same thing with 28-page slide decks and 7-page proposals and tell me about your nonprofit, and you send me 20 sentences about what you do and your programs, and let me give you the history and the backstory you're just putting speed bumps on the road. All of these things slow everything down. Now, the exceptions to this might be if I'm meeting with someone who is a CEO of a nonprofit and they're in my industry. Let's say I'm in animal welfare or I'm in environmental conservation or education, and they're further along in their journey. They've achieved a level of success that I aspire to. That is someone you should ask for advice. Now, if you're just asking somebody who is a potential donor or current donor who's wealthy, who has agreed to meet with you, and your objective is to ask them for advice so that they give money, then I would advise you to stop doing that. Stop collecting all this advice that you're not implementing. I know you're not. If you implemented all the advice that you got, you know how I know you're not? Because you listen to this podcast and you don't implement the advice that I give you. That's right. I'm calling you out. Do you feel called out? If you actually needed more advice, then you would already be implementing the oodles and boo-koodles of advice that you've already collected. My sense is that you're an advice collector. You need more data. You need more advice. You need consultations. You need more preparation and research. And all of this is just procrastination disguised as wisdom. It's cowardice disguised as preparation and study. And I'm a student. I'm a perpetual learner. I am too, but I can tell you that I take action. That's how I learn. Part of why you are a perpetual advice collector is just delay tactics. There is no wisdom in delaying doing the thing you know you should be doing. If you are actually implementing all of the good advice that you get, then this doesn't apply to you. But I bet you're not. I bet you're not. You go to people asking them for advice, and then you don't do anything with the advice because you're secretly hoping that they'll donate. How's that working out for you? The people who actually give that advice came from an investor in the for-profit sector who was going to potential investors, and that may work in that context. This is an entirely different context where being direct and being succinct and concise and compelling and clear is going to serve you. And I guarantee you that the people who give that advice, those investors, they straight up ask for money. They are not only asking for advice and magically money rains down every time they ask for advice. That's not what's happening. The cold hard truth is that the people who are raising more money than you, the organizations who are maybe not as effective as you are, who are beating you in fundraising results, who are raising more in less time and less effort, is because number one, they have invested a lot in marketing. They are not a best kept secret. They are not unknown. They do not brag about that. They have invested their skills and training into marketing, telling stories, telling of the impact, communicating, copywriting, video, updating their website. They have invested in marketing in a way that would make you really uncomfortable. If you want people who are knocking on your door, who are emailing your info email address about how they want to give you six-figure gifts, which that's what happens to my clients, by the way, you need to invest in marketing. There's no way around it. If people don't know you exist, then you haven't invested enough in marketing or your marketing sucks. I'm telling you this because I actually want you to win. You can never hire me, and that's fine. You can listen to all my free stuff. There is tremendous value in what I'm saying here. But you've got to face facts. The people who have the results that you want have invested things you have not invested in. Period. They have gotten better skills because they paid money to save time. They have invested a lot of time in getting better skills. Second of all, they ask straight up. They're not vague. They don't say things like, "Can we count on you this year?" They straight up ask people for money. And I guarantee you, the investor who originally said, "Ask for advice, get money," is straight up asking for money. A lot more. Asking for advice in that particular context likely gets him in the door. It likely gets the meeting. But it doesn't end there. They ask for money way more than advice. And if I'm going to someone to a meeting and I'm asking them for advice, it's because they are an expert in the thing I'm asking about. If someone were to ask me about what's something I'm not an expert in, doing program curriculum for education nonprofit, I'm not an expert in that. Why would you be asking me that? I don't have any business weighing in on it. It's a waste of time for everybody involved. Now, the people you're meeting with, you ask them for advice on something, and they're like you're gonna give you an answer because they want to help you. So you can't blame them and say, "Oh, well, they shouldn't speak up." They're trying to be helpful. And to be fair, this is what you're saying that you need: advice. And I get what happens. When someone is an expert in one thing, we attribute expertise to them in lots of other things also. That's a mistake. Just because you're an expert in one or two areas does not make you an expert in all areas. We need to exercise a bit more discernment here. This is something that I really wish you could see. You can raise money faster, more efficiently if you are direct. You do not need to be disrespectful. You don't need to be pushy. You don't need to be rude. You can be assertive and kind. You can be straight up and humble. You can be a good listener and also ask really direct questions. If you do not understand something, you can say, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" That's actually how you build trust and have relationship-based fundraising, is by having a dialogue with people. There is no hidden agenda. When people ask, like, "Oh, I'm trying to get a meeting with a donor. Should I let them know, like, what the meeting's about?" I'm like, "Oh my God, yes. This is the method that I teach." It's like, tell people what your intentions are. If you're inviting them to a fundraising event, but you don't call it a fundraising event, and then they get there and then you make an ask, you've blindsided them. And likely your results are a reflection of that. You may be disappointed in the results because people weren't prepared. And it actually reveals you think people don't want to go to a fundraiser. If you ask for a meeting and you don't state why you want the meeting and what the purpose of the meeting is, you likely aren't booking meetings because wealthy people, successful people, your major donors do not want to waste their time. And if it's not obvious why you want to meet, they will fill in the blank and they'll be like, I'm good. I don't need to meet. I don't need to meet. I'm good. So yes, what I teach inside Courage Lab is if you want to meet with someone and you want to ask them about their donation, say that in the meeting request. Be straight up. And then what ends up happening is people raise money in one email. They raise a $20K gift in a 10-minute phone call. They get a $15,000 donation over email. They get an answer within a week. And an email that took them 15 minutes to write. Because they are clear. There is no hidden agenda. The agenda is on the table. This builds trust. I'm not here to be your friend, but secretly on the inside, I'm meeting with you because I know you're rich and I'm hoping that you'll donate. If I hope you'll donate, I'm going to ask you straight up. It's healthy. Having hidden agendas is dysfunctional. I don't understand how this isn't understood. Stop playing games. You are exhausting yourself because you are playing all of these games. It's just masking the fact that you need courage. You don't need better structure. You don't need better systems. You don't need blah, 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 blah. You don't need more advice. You need to take action. You need to straight up ask. If you are not raising enough money, you're likely not asking enough. If you are asking a lot and you're not raising enough, then you need to improve the quality of your asks. Do you understand? Either you're not doing it frequently enough or you're not doing it well enough. Which one is it? And it could likely be both. You don't do it very often, so you're not very good. Makes sense. The more you do something and you learn, you iterate, you're going to get better at it. You don't get better at it by studying, by researching, by reading. You get better by doing it. This isn't complicated. We complicate the shit out of it because we're scared. We want to make it really complex because we're afraid. It's about our ego. It's about how we will be perceived. It's about protecting our own comfort and refusing to be uncomfortable for our mission. It really is about courage, period. I don't want to hear any more of this. I'm asking for advice so that I can get money. If you want money, ask for advice. No. How about if you want money, ask for money? If you want advice, ask for advice. You don't have to ask for one or the other. And if you ask for advice, ask from the right person and use wisdom when you are engaging the advice. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Not all advice is good advice. You need to be more judicious about who you ask for advice. Stop going to everybody who has money and asking them for advice. And if you are going to take advice, implement it and then report back the difference that it made. Stop taking advice from people and then you don't let them know, like, hey, this actually changed my life. Like, you're having a one-sided relationship and that person isn't actually getting the benefit of the relationship. Like, communicate. You need to get better at communication. You're too avoidant because you're scared, and you can do this. It is really not as high of a risk as you perceive it to be. You will not die. 100% of my clients have survived. There is a 100% survival rate for Courage Lab. No one died after asking for a major gift. It's never happened. It is not life or death, but for your community, it might be. Your fear is costing them. When will you take the action that you have been delaying and tweaking and researching and preparing? And you'll actually do it. Stop collecting advice, start taking action.